Good afternoon. I'm Alan Unell, and this series of videos is Healthcare Advocacy, where we address problems in the healthcare system, take action, and try and make a better system for all of us. Let's talk about negotiating drug prices. But before we do, down below in the description box will be a link to the Healthcare Advocacy newsletter that is a script for today's video. You can go there, you can share it, you can subscribe for free. It is my free retirement job, and all of the links and the analyses and the studies, anything I mention, those links are in that newsletter, as well as the actions we'll describe. So let's get started. Negotiating drug prices. The US government has long allowed drug manufacturers to pretty much charge whatever they wanted in the United States. They benefit from US government research investment. In fact, every drug that was FDA approved from 2010 to 2020 was funded by the US taxpayers. The claim that it is capitalism at work to charge all the traffic will bear is false, because, I don't know if you've read books on capitalism, but in there they discuss a meeting of the minds between the buyer and the seller. And quite frankly, in the United States, we don't have a meeting of the minds between the buyer and the seller, especially not when the government pays the bill for Medicare and Medicaid for well over a third of the US population, and they don't really get to negotiate drug prices at all. This is a really ugly business. If you go back in the history of healthcare policy in the United States, you will find that there was a United States senator who made sure that there was no US government negotiation in Medicare other than the VA. They allowed that. And then this guy retired from the Senate and took a job at PhRMA, that's PHRMA, which is the drug company lobbying agency. I don't know, what a lack of ethics. Anyway, okay, so now the US government can negotiate 10 drug prices for Medicare starting in 2026. And they've pushed down the price of insulin. But look what really happened. Drug manufacturers raised the prices of 600 drugs just this January 2024. They're making up for the amount that they're going to be giving back in lowering prices in 2026 with Medicare. Novo Nordisk has just announced, they're one of the three big insulin manufacturers, they just announced that they will stop selling Levemir insulin in the United States. They were supposed to drop the price to $35. You remember that story? Anyway, specifically, the injectable FlexPen version of Levemir will stop sales in April of 2024, and they will halt all sales of Levemir vials, that you self-inject with your own syringe, by the end of December. And amazingly enough, the company has not announced any plans to discontinue the drug in other countries. Okay, look, if you want to negotiate fair prices, then you have to have leverage. So how do you do that? Well, if you passed universal health care, where we had a single insurance company, not the 902 insurance companies we have now, then they could negotiate fair prices for all 330 million of us. Let's take an action. Let's educate our members of Congress and our senators so that they know that fair drug prices come with fair negotiations. If you want to negotiate, then you need leverage. 330 million of us, that's leverage. Okay, you can do this really easily. You can call or email them down in the description box. There'll be a link where you can get their phone number or email, or you can use ResistBot and on your cell phone send a text message to 50409, and here's the message: sign, SIGN, POACTL. So that's sign and then space POACTL. And here's the email you'll send them. We all deserve a healthcare system that works for all of us. Part of that includes fair drug prices for the drugs we actually need. If we had universal health care, public insurance paying private providers, then we could negotiate fair prices for all the drugs. Now, you may not be aware, Congressperson, but manufacturers just raised the prices on 600 drugs this January. So much for lower costs on the 10 drugs that they promised to negotiate. It took 2 years to be able to get to the negotiation on those 10 drugs, while 600 are going the other way. And today we've just learned that Novo Nordisk is going to stop selling Levemir insulin in the United States, which I believe they were promising to drop to 35 bucks. You know what? The great majority of Americans want this problem fixed. And good news, it's in the hands of Congress to fix it. All you have to do is enact H.R. 3421, the vastly improved universal health care plan, and then take care of your constituents. Okay, let's talk about some good news. Writing and learning. Typing can be faster by hand. It was certainly faster for my mother than it was for writing. She was a speed typist. But it turns out it is less stimulating to the human brain, according to research published Friday in the journal Frontiers in Psychology. After recording brain activity of 36 university students, researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology determined that handwriting might improve learning and memory. In particular, the study found that writing by hand required communication between the brain's visual, sensory, and motor cortices. And I have a link to the study in the newsletter. I got to tell you, on a personal note, I have a doctorate in mathematics, and I found that that technique, I could read a proof, but worked best for me was if I actually wrote it down, then I could actually remember it without issue. So it works. I have a correction to add because accuracy is important. Last week, I wrote about the huge volume of rapes in the United States and the number of pregnancies that have resulted. I should have reported that those numbers were over an 18-month period, not a 12-month or 1-year period. And there is a link to the source for the story, which is at the Journal of the American Medical Association. I will give you the quote from their report. In the 14 states that implemented total abortion bans following the Dobbs decision, they estimated that 519,981 completed rapes were associated with 64,565 pregnancies during the 4 to 18-month period that bans were in effect. That's abortion bans. Of those, it's estimated that 5,586 rape-related pregnancies, that's 9%, occurred in states with rape exceptions. And get this, 58,979 of those pregnancies occurred in states that had no exception for rape. And 26,313, 45%, occurred in Texas. You know, I was off on the time period slightly, but this is appalling. Let's take an extra credit action. You can use, again, ResistBot on your cell phone, and you can text to 50409. Here's the phrase, SIGN space PYHVGY. And here's what you're going to send them. I'm your constituent, and I just learned that there are about 520,000 rapes in the U.S. that resulted in 64,565 pregnancies across 14 states since the Supreme Court discarded Roe v. Wade. Of those, 91% happened in states with no exceptions that allowed for termination of pregnancies that occurred as a result of a rape. That's more than 58,000 women. 45% of those in Texas. Are you okay with this kind of treatment? I sure hope not. I want you to come out in public and let everyone know that this kind of treatment of women in the U.S. is not acceptable. How many women do you think have to suffer? I want you to get the Women's Health Protection Act, that's H.R. 12 or Senate Bill 701, passed and fast. And I want you to make sure that mifepristone, the abortion medication, is available via telehealth and by mail and fast. And that's H.R. 767 or Senate Bill 4467. I want you to behave like your job depends on this because guess what? It does. Okay, that's the message for today. Down below, you can like, share, subscribe, pass it along, sign up for daily email delivery of healthcare advocacy in your inbox, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good day.